All right. We are back again for another Tuesday with your favorite home care franchise, A Place at Home. My name is Mitch Benson, and I'm the franchise development manager. Joined with me today is Mr. Jerod Evanich, president and co-founder. What's up, Jerod?
Hello, good to be here, Mitch. Thanks for having me on this beautiful yet brisk Tuesday afternoon here in Omaha, Nebraska.
Most definitely brisk, frigid, all of the cold words you can think about. But we are lulled into a sense of warmth because of it's been sunny for the past 2 days, right? You walk outside, there's not a cloud in the sky, but it's a solid 20 degrees out here in Omaha. What's that about? But
20 degrees warmer than yesterday. That's what it is.
that's exactly right, which is a pretty big percentage increase, if I do say so myself. Not bad at all, you know. But
Absolutely.
hey, the weather is cold, but the topics are hot this week at A Place at Home's LinkedIn Live. And that topic is this: a home healthcare business, what to expect when starting one. Right. Jerod, I think when I think of that question or just that prompt there, that's a lot of what we do. In this brand, we're the development department. We get to kind of share what to expect when jumping into this business, when really preparing yourself to make this. So I'm just really excited to continue that here in this conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, most certainly. And we have put in some great work kind of laying down the foundation of steps up to starting a business. And so now we're going to just kind of go that next step, which is what to expect when starting one,
Hmm.
and what are some expectations kind of yourself in this
Hmm.
process. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
Mitch, I'm looking forward to diving right in.
Yeah. Well, that's such a great setup here, right? So to what you're mentioning here, we want to talk about expectations on multiple levels. And the first is something I want to share a little bit about is the expectation you can have for your business at a high level, but then the expectations you need to have for yourself when you dive into this, and then the expectations of the process, whether that be with a franchise or with an independent venture, whatever that looks like, right? And to me, when you start at that first level, right, the expectation for the business itself, I think that you can expect to have a rewarding business, right, that positively impacts your community and provides you financial freedom for not only yourself but your family, right? If that's our expectation, we are in the right call. We are in the right space here. It doesn't have to be everybody's expectation. We can find, fulfillment in our careers in a lot of other ways. But if this is what we want, a rewarding business, positive impact to the community, and financial freedom that leaves a legacy for your family, we're here, right? Now we can start talking about entrepreneurship and we can start to ask ourselves some questions, right? And this is really fun for me because I have this little sticky note that I've been using for I guess years now, as I've been learning, development process, home care from you, from the whole team here. And really, what I find is that there's maybe four big expectations that we need to set for ourselves when thinking of this business. And I want to see what you think about it. Right?
Okay,
Uh,
let's hear
those
'em.
four, right? They're about our know-how, right? You need to expect that the skills you as an entrepreneur bring to the table will be directly tied to your business success, right? Do you have the skills to run this business? And
Does that mean
go
you
ahead.
have to have background in home health, Mitch? Or what kind of skills are you talking about?
Mhm. Well, that's huge, and that's a big question we hear all the time. This is senior care. Do I need to have had healthcare experience before? And I always say that it's not going to hurt, right? Thinking of Nilima in Chicago, right? That didn't hurt from her healthcare background, of course not. But it is not a requirement. And I know for a fact that it's not a requirement because I learned this from you, Jerod, right? From where I think what I've learned of your experience before starting this own business is more of the requirement, and that's to really know where you shine. And let's think of maybe a first place you may shine, which is building relationships, right? And you did so much of that before, a place at home. How much did building relationships help you when you got into maybe starting this business?
It was huge. It was one of the most important aspects of starting this business because it's a relationship business. Whether you're building relationships out in the community for
Mm,
potential referral sources, you're getting involved with the senior networking groups, building those relationships, building relationships with your clients and the prospects in which you are going to hopefully turn into clients, and relationships with your caregivers. So that relationship builder was absolutely a pivotal skill set for
Mm,
myself and for Dustin in an area that we thrived. And
mm-hmm,
some people though, they say, well, I don't feel as comfortable being in the forefront. Maybe I don't want
mm,
to be the face. I like to be more in the back. I like
mm-hmm,
to be that manager. I like to put the puzzle together and do
mm,
maybe some of the hiring and back end office work. And that's okay too.
mm-hmm.
But Mitch, what would you call that type of person?
Yeah, I think of a chess player. I think of a strategist. I think of somebody who's really kind of putting the puzzle together is something we hear a lot of, especially when we talk about scheduling. A really key element of maybe the operations side of our business, right?
Mhm.
Which can draw from HR backgrounds. It can draw from recruiting backgrounds and people management backgrounds, right? That to me is another strong space for you to be in. It is very important, right? Developing that culture that magnetizes your employees to you, right? And if that's where you shine, then that's where you need to be, because your skill when you bring it to the table will be directly related to the success of your
Yeah.
business, right? And some of that insight can really help, right? But I always like to say too that when your skill comes to the table and you know where you're at, oftentimes you could be successful in any number of businesses, right? We could be successful in variations of healthcare in and out of the industry, right? But what brings us to a great opportunity to be successful in senior care is a passion, right? This is a connection to what we get to do here, right? And an expectation that someone needs to have for themselves is that your passion will come out in the success of your business, right? And it works the reverse, right? If you don't have a passion, that will also come out, right? that it's something else. And we always talk a little bit about how to see that passion with individuals, and we talk
Mhm.
about like a professional connection, right, or even a personal connection, right? And to me that's so huge. How important is that when you think of someone when they're setting expectations for themselves?
I think this is number one. If
Hmm,
you do not have that connection with home health, with caring for others,
hmm,
there's a million other businesses out there that you can do. Every one
hmm,
of our owners has a connection to some degree of either personal experiences, that need, want, drive to be able to help others, to be fulfilled,
hmm,
to maybe perhaps their last job was more in corporate America where they find themselves checking off boxes and they just want something more, right?
hmm,
This can absolutely fill that bucket. And I would say without the passion to drive this business, you're not going to be as successful as we would want you to be, and
hmm,
as ultimately you would hope to be. So
hmm,
passion is something that I would say you cannot go without. Now, real quick, I
hmm,
do want to rewind back to something you just talked about with the know-how, because in the know-how we talked about relationship builder, kind of that chess player, and even touched on that people manager. Now, you don't have to be all of those things, right, to
right.
start this business, but you got to know where you thrive,
Hmm,
right? And if you
hmm,
know where you thrive, and that's where we also help in this process in franchising, right? Is helping to
yeah.
see where your strengths are, but then how are you going to fill that gap with somebody else who's going to achieve those other items, right? Those other skill sets you may not be so proficient at,
Hmm,
right?
hmm, hmm.
But you can't just not have the passion. We're not going to
Right.
sign someone on and says, hey, you know what? You go hire someone with passion and you just run this thing, right? You're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
going to do that.
And it's not going to set folks up for success. And I think that's an expectation you need to have as an individual considering this world, that your passion will come into the success of your business. If this is something that matters to you, we not only ask that it be there and be the forefront in your life, but it has to align with our goals, our passions, and we have to be able to speak about it, right? We're actually fortunate enough to have in our marketing launch process, the opportunity to shoot video with our franchisees being able to, share their story and their why, and really deliver that passion, right? uh, but I think too, when we talk about how important the passion is, we're talking about how important you are in your own business, right? But where you are in your own business, to your point too, can come with different maybe time investments. And I
Yeah.
think this is the third big expectation too, right? What is your personal expectation for the time you want to give to this business? And there's no one right answer, but all of them have to have consideration behind it. And you need to prepare for what you're willing to give into your own business, right?
Right.
Uh, I think of you and our co-founder Dustin when we came into this business, saying, "Look, this is something that we are diving into, and we're going to give our full selves to this," which we've later found is the owner-operator model, right? Think of someone who's interested in maybe transitioning out of their role to focus on something full time and really can find themselves in this position to share their passion wherever it lie, right? That's a big deal. And to me, that is really exciting. Risk might be a little higher, at least in our emotional space, because you're leaving something stable or seemingly stable to come into something that you own or you're in the middle of. And that can give some folks pause, but really it's very exciting, and the benefit comes to you even more than if you were on the outside. But that's a
Yeah.
position that you can be in as well. Some folks really are looking for an opportunity to maybe put the right people in the right seats, and they have prepared for that opportunity so they can enter an absentee role, manage the managers, and build an infrastructure that still makes this impact, that still rewards them, right? To me, I think this is huge. It really shares with us where the conversation goes and can help the candidate identify opportunities that are best for them, right?
Mitch, I totally agree. And, one thing to also consider is how these things all work together, because you can have an aspect of know-how and the
Mm-hmm.
passion and not have the time to
Mm-hmm.
put forward. And what you have is the need to put somebody in the position that will spend the time.
Mm.
Therefore, you're paying an individual to do what you are not. Therefore,
Right.
you have a financial expectation that is now higher,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, time and money, a lot of times, are going to go hand in hand. The more time you put towards it, the more you're going to have to, or the less that you're going to have to pay someone else to do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? The
Right.
more know how that you have, the less you're going to have to pay someone to fill those gaps of different aspects of know how,
Yeah.
right? So, these are all kind of intertwined, but I think
Mm-hmm.
where the biggest point about knowing yourself and what to expect is that if you
Mm-hmm.
know these things about yourself and your specific scenario, then you can set yourself up for success in terms of how much time am I going to put forward? How much financial impact is that going to have on the business? The passion behind it is going to be there. And now it's a matter of what do I know that I can apply and what do I need to learn or hire
Mm-hmm.
to fill?
Yeah, that's so succinct and so powerful, right? Trying to find expectations of business ownership feels like this daunting textbook that we need to read over and over again. I don't think it is, Jerod. I think it's exactly what you said. Is just learn these things about yourself, and the wild world of entrepreneurship tends to narrow down with opportunities that are best suited for you, right? I love
Sure.
that, and I hope that's a big value to everyone listening here, because that, even as a single nugget, can be really taken into the next steps when you consider the actual process of starting a business, right? Which then kind of changes the dynamic of the entrepreneurial journey, right?
Yeah.
You've done all this pre-work on yourself, and you really know what's going to fit best. And then you get into this world where you've decided, all right, I am launching my business, right? And then things become a little less, hypothetical or introspective, and it's real. It's happening. What am I doing today that helps me make money tomorrow and it supports my family by the end of the week? Like, these are starts of things that we get to think about. And you can go a lot of different ways here, but I know that the process that you've designed here at A Place at Home, and what we get to help people think about, right, is this process that we call care launch, right? This can be overwhelming, but not when you have a roadmap. All right.
Mhm.
And that roadmap really is the expectation. Okay. Uh, and I think that's really helpful to know, is what is that expectation? What if someone else is helping you launch this business, like in a franchise, like A Place at Home, what are their expectations of you? right? And how does that fit? What are their expectations for this process? And we start in launching your business, right? In maybe the first of 4 total big steps, which is just setting up your systems, right? Everybody has to do this. Every business, every independent individual, every franchise, whatever. We need to have a solid suite of software and platforms that communicate you to the wild world of entrepreneurship. And that's step number 1, right? Got to do that. And if we're an independent business, right, I think we're spending a lot of time vetting platforms, getting a new email address, seeing if a particular accounting software or CRM works best for you, trial and error, finding something that works for you. And that's fine, but you didn't make money today. You vetted on a new project that you have to figure out you don't like by the end of the week and try something new. That's okay. A lot of folks choose to do that, but maybe in another way you can cut to the front of the line, right? As far as a franchise may be concerned, right?
For
But
sure.
then, so you know what I mean? Is you put all of those pieces together there, and your expectation is that you have a solid systems right there, right? But tell you what, once we have our email address, we have a phone. We're ready to start dialing and just get clients, right?
That's it. That's all it
Right.
takes.
Done deal.
Right.
And that's been our talk. Thanks, everybody.
Things,
Right.
right. There's a few other things, but even just a quick kind of hit list or checklist, I would say, of some of these systems. And we're talking about creating the LLC, making sure you have your NPI, getting your bank account launched. Perhaps you're needing doing business ads. So you can rename, for example, our franchise owners do business ads, a place at home, South Denver, for example, or Metro Denver South versus their LLC name. Software, right? You talked about a CRM. CRM is part of the equation. Phones are a part of the equation. Insurance is a part of the equation. What kind of processor or how are you going to manage your books, right? There is a lot of different things that go into this. You need a website. Oh my gosh, right? What kind of partners, what other recruiting websites, vendor websites, all of these things that are starting to come together kind of all at once. Those are all your systems. And so I've only really hit on the majority of the systems that could be blanketed for both home care as well as home health. But in addition to, there's additional systems for home health, right? There's additional policies and procedures. There's a different set of initial supplies that are needed for home health when talking about the different kind of skilled services that you're going to be having. But the systems in our mind is putting all of those kind of business items together and into a place to where now you say, okay, I'm ready to go. I can move forward. But you can't move forward because there is something else that you're doing kind of simultaneously with these systems. And we do it simultaneously here at A Place at Home through that launch process. But Mitch, I think we're getting into your next bucket, which is the state.
The state. Yes, the state gets to decide how you launch your business as well. Unless you're in the state of Iowa, and I hope you never are, maybe you have regulations. But that's a big piece of it, right? Depending on what kind of business you're in, you need to consider how to operate your business within that regulatory environment, right? Ultimately what it might mean for a home care business is checking whether or not we have a regulation at all, right? Some states do not, in which case we collect $200 and pass go. You just move forward.
Easy.
It's just easy like that. There are some states that do have what I would consider straightforward application processes that begin with a policies and procedures submission with an application, potentially some sort of fee, right? And then essentially sits with the state for a number of months where they can review and ultimately schedule what's called a site survey with the applicant. And that is where the state will come see you. They will come to your place of business and essentially review with you your policies and procedures, right? Oftentimes, this is when an approval is typically made, and then there's maybe a closing process where they eventually get you maybe the shiny piece of paper that says you can operate, right? To me, that's the middle of the road, right? Whereas maybe some more complex home care licensing takes longer, maybe is more expensive. Maybe the state has prescribed a certain staff member that needs to be on team before starting your business. All of which are just considerations to make, preparations to be ready for, to get you into that place where you can start this business, right? But that's typically home care. Home health is a different story,
That's
isn't it?
that's home care. Home health is a different story.
Hmm.
And as you mentioned, first off, with home care, there's about 20 states out there that don't have a license, and
Hmm.
you hit on that. So I mean, that is, like as you said, do not pass go, do not collect $100, $200, just go straight to business,
Hmm.
right? Like let's roll, and that's great. Now, just because the state has a license, sometimes you may not need a license. Like in Nebraska, there's an optional license that allows you to do some additional care services.
Mhm.
And then there's more in-depth states, Colorado, Oregon, California, Washington, and even Florida is becoming more and more in-depth, where they do require some additional maybe administrators on board,
Hmm.
nurses on board. So it's kind of that another layer, which we recently overcame in New Jersey, would be getting your accreditation, which
Hmm.
is very, very rare. The
Right.
only state right now in the US in which you need accreditation for a home care company. Now,
Hmm.
accreditation is something more often you would find on the home health side,
Right.
right? On the home health side, you have to go through an entire accreditation process a lot of times before you can, number one, operate and be able
Mhm.
to show with that accreditation that you are actively and able to take on your patients, you're able to care for them correctly, follow all your policy and procedures,
Right.
maintain all HIPAA compliance, as well as now be billed and be able to bill CMS, right? So it's Centers of Medicare and Medicaid, as well as other insurances.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of different kind of boxes that need to be checked and doors that need to be unlocked along the way of your launch process just to get to your primary pay sources. And so
Hmm.
that gets way more in depth, a lot more layers, especially when you're talking about occupational therapy, speech
Right.
therapy, physical therapy, skilled nursing services, bath aid services, and putting those all together, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
much more in the state requirements there.
Hmm. Yeah. And what I'm hearing you say too is there's like this, maybe this is a line that you cross where complexity starts to set in, and it's really tied to the level of care that you provide, the acuity that you aim to serve, and the payer sources that are on the other side of that bill, right? And I find that this is maybe the clearest way to distinguish between what we're excited to do, which is non-medical home care. It's kind of on one side of the fence here, and then the other side, which would be medical, skilled, or home health care, right? And it's just different levels. Again, different things to be aware of and to prepare for, right? And who knows? Typically, this process can take any number of months if there are months at all. But getting ready for that, kind of in our design here at A Place at Home, is something we do early so that it can create this arc of your training program, right? There's so much of that process we have to send out and kind of wait for. So our operations team has really tackled that right up front so that we can send off our application and start to look at other things, right? Which maybe the next thing we need to think about is the site, right? Where is our actual opportunity where we can place the business, right? Where is that? And some folks, might have a difficulty wrapping our heads around this, right? We're not necessarily your fast food burrito place that you see everywhere, and you just have an idea of what that business looks like, right? A home care business can take many forms, but it's at its base level, an office space that's professional and an opportunity to bring in your caregivers primarily for interviews and touch base with them before they get to do their great work in the field. Right? We spend a lot of time here in that opportunity to find that great space of your business and plan for growth too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So absolutely, I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of just a general office space. A lot of times, we can even take advantage of executive suites and smaller office spaces that aren't going to break the bank as you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
grow your business.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it is home care or home health, I would definitely put more emphasis on location and
Mm-hmm.
proximity to your care staff, versus the proximity to your clients. Why is that? You don't want to be too far from your clients and those who are referring them, but you do want to be in a reasonable location to where your employees are going to be able to find you and not have to go out of their way to come to you for, any number of things, whether it be the initial hiring process or orientations, events, training, and so forth that you may have at your office. So it can be a little bit of a science, but when looking at a good site location, I would definitely take in all those factors and don't go overboard, right? You don't need a 2,000, 3,000 plus square foot place that you're going to grow into over the next 5 years. Let's take a fraction of that and let's grow into our second year and let's see how that growth has spurred, how many people you are needing to, facilitate administratively within your office, and also make sure that you're satisfied with your original site selection location, right? Is it in that proximity you were hoping for and able to kind of reduce some of the barriers for caregivers to find you? Great. If not, maybe you need to relocate. Maybe you need to be closer to some of your referral sources because your marketing efforts are so strong that you're spending, 30 minutes one way to go to the local hospital system to go and see some of your referral sources. So again, home care, home health definitely have a few different nuances on that site location. But I think in general, be frugal up front, size a location, and then find the right proximity to caregivers.
That's huge advice, right? And then it really focuses on, maybe the focus or the primary reason of our office is to be that space for a caregiver to meet you and to be in that opportunity. Huge, right? And if you do have a 2,000 to 3,000 square foot office, then you can sublease the back room to me. It'll be great. I'll put a cot back there. It'd be awesome. But when this happens, this is also a key element of your regulatory licensing process. Like we had mentioned, a site survey is typically how that process ends, and the state is coming to your office, right? They want to see not only you to review the policies and procedures, but they want to be in your space and take a physical look at what you have to offer your clients or your caregivers primarily, right? But to me, when we talk about that, I want to address something that Elizabeth Morris had brought up here. Before we move into maybe the final step here of what you can expect in your launch process, Elizabeth brought up, I think, a great question about the state process, regulation, licensing, right? And this question is, do you seem less credible without licensing, right? Well, that is a really key element here that I think a lot of our business owners who are in those kinds of states have taken in great stride, right? And have really made an opportunity out of this, okay? Ultimately, when we see an absence of a regulation, right, it essentially puts the onus on you, the business owner, right? And if we're an independent business, that onus is wholly on you. That is your own thing to deal with. Understanding what best practices are is up to you, right? You really need to figure this out. Maybe we're in a franchise system that has more collective thought over that and can really share some points, right? That come to a client and say, look, we are not necessarily licensed. Our state doesn't ask for that. But let me show you all of the steps we've taken to ensure the level of care you receive from us, right? Our state didn't necessarily require us to have a certain person on staff, yet we brought maybe a registered nurse with us right away anyhow, right? These are all ways for you to consider your regulatory environment and make it work for you, with the ultimate goal being that care delivered to the client is never shortchanged. There's never a corner cut. It's always going to be that level of care with or without the licensing opportunity, right? And so I think that's a really great way to stand out in an environment that might not have as much regulation as some other environments. Yeah.
Great answer, Mitch. Yeah. I mean, every state is going to be different. And there may be specific parts of a license that would require you to have a certain individual a certificate, CNA, whereas before you could have a caregiver or a medic. There are some things that could be a drawback to licensing. So you're going to have to just kind of weigh those out.
Right.
I think that, the more credentialing you can have, the more professional focus you can have. Of course, the more credible you look on the surface, but at the end, it's going to come down to the quality of care that you're providing, the
Right.
reputation that you have out there, and the fact that you are providing, you know, an exceptional service that people are satisfied with, and that a lot of times will speak for itself.
Yeah. And I think a lot of what you're sharing here too is how your business is presented, how that conversation goes with your referral partners in the market, the ultimate conversation with the client themselves, and how you're attracting your care staff, right? How do we do that? We've talked about all these steps here about how to kind of set up a business in the home care space. But I think the last expectation that an entrepreneur can have for themselves is really kind of getting your marketing strategies right, right? How do you get out there and push the business forward? That's an expectation you have to have, and likely one that you've developed in the beginning and are now getting to sharpening up, tightening up, making sure that your processes are ready to go to market. And when we come to a place like a place at home, right, the franchisor that is welcoming all of our owners into, that process is built into what we call training, right? We're going to train you up. Again, your background can be from many places, but this is where we get to the fun work of bringing you online training that begins in your own market. You self-guided for the most part, but we coach you through it. Learning, what I always share with people is how to answer the two big questions of our industry, which is how do we get our clients and how do we get our caregivers, right? When we train on these extensively, you will have a lot of the knowledge that you need, right, to be able to set yourself up for success. And in our system, right, we start online. There's a lot that we need to get through to be sure that you're comfortable before your doors open, right? And when we get close to that point where your doors are about to be open, we have a space, the state has given you signals that we're about ready to go, then we welcome you back here to a place at home headquarters for what's called your in-person training. I always share with that's a summary week, right? That kind of training period is so fun because you get to put the bow on it, right? This is the last step you take before your doors are going to be open and you're out there, you're generating revenue. And it just so happens that a place at home is right in the middle of training week. We have some great franchisees who are in our office right this second who
Right
are
now.
taking that final step, right? Ready to open their doors and make that impact in their market. This is that kind of that last thing that happens before we're out in the world making it happen.
Yeah.
But,
no, absolutely. So glad that we do have those franchise owners in now. I mean, they're going through and learning so much information that they're going to take directly into their market and have a very strong launch. But
yeah,
the easiest way I usually can help describe what training is and how they're going to wrap their minds around it is two basic cycles. You got your client cycle and you got your employee cycle, right? Both of which start with a referral source, right? A referral source for a client potentially could be a social worker, a hospitalist, somebody like that. So you have to create that relationship. That rewinds back into where Mitch is talking about marketing, whether it be digital marketing or on the ground marketing, some of that referral marketing. But we're going to train you how to do that marketing to develop that referral source to develop a prospect. You then have to work that prospect into a client. Once you have that client, you have to go through their care plan and make sure that you can assess their needs correctly, match them with a great caregiver, and that transforms into a schedule. That schedule, then when it's complete, goes to a billing, right? And then repeat. Same thing with your caregiver or with your employees, right? They start with a referral source. It could be, a job posting. It could be your Indeed. It could perhaps be a local nursing college, right? They create that. In this case, instead of a prospect, it'd be an applicant. You work that applicant through the hiring process to bring on as an employee. And that employee, they have their own schedule that they're going to need, as well as their own care plan that talks about them, who they are, their, what they like, what they dislike, their skill sets. Are they allergic to dogs, cats? Making sure you can place them with the right people, right? Ultimately, combining them with that schedule then will end with a payroll, right? So that's what we work on in training, not only the marketing to create those referral sources, but then taking them all the way through to the end, all the way through to billing. Now, if you're in home health, that billing will then have another layer, right? Because now you have certain coding. You're billing third-party payers almost exclusively through CMS, Medicare, Medicaid, and other private insurance companies. And so that only would be yet another layer of training. So a lot of those things, if you are on your own, if you are starting your own company, it's a lot to think about. Your competitors, how much are you going to charge? What does that landscape look like out there? Just to name a few of the things. Who am I going to go and talk to? Where's the right place for me to spend my time in digital marketing with websites and social medias? We like to wrap all that up in a nice bow. We call it our launch process, as Mitch and what we were talking about here, and have multiple programs that can most certainly lead you through that. But that's about the last part of this launch process, Mitch.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. When we're asking ourselves, what we're expecting when starting a business, right? Starting a home healthcare business, a home care business, any kind of other home care oriented opportunity. This is a lot of those expectations, right? You're going to have an expectation of what entrepreneurship is right off the bat, which is a way to provide for your own family, give you financial freedom, and that opportunity to kind of break from what you've been doing with your whole life before and get something that you're in the center of. That's a huge expectation. But to do that, right, you need to set some goals for yourself, look inward and know where you're going to shine, and really kind of take those key elements into consideration: your know-how, your passion, the time, and the financing you're willing to give to your opportunity. And when you have that, right, you can really decide the path that you wish to travel, right? And then there's a set of expectations of what it's like to get through launching this business, right? And when you come to a place like a place at home, we get to be there with you. We get to help you with all of this. It's not an experiment. It's not a guess. It's a proven process. It's something we've been through multiple times before. We are in one right now. It's happening right before us. And it's something we're excited to share with a lot of people. So I hope that it's been informative for all of our listeners here as to what those expectations might be. Start to get some thoughts turning for them. And we're just so excited to help more individuals find what their path might look like. Could be in a place at home, right? And we have even more information about maybe an extension of this conversation on our website, right? Our website is aplaceathomefranchise.com, where we talk about what to expect when starting in assisted living, right? We take that whole step outside of this conversation to give you even more perspectives and things to think about. So please go to our blog at aplaceathomefranchise.com to see that information. And we hope it's been great for everybody. Thank you, Sherry, for joining us here. We've had tri-state representation from our franchise system. It's been great. You hear Sherry say it's icy in Arkansas. Oh man, that's terrible. I hate that.
Stay safe.
Stay safe. Exactly. Stay warm, stay dry, stay unfrozen, I hope, but thanks so much for being here, guys. And we've got a lot of fun information coming up. Just this next opportunity here, which is about maybe going into that next level of what to expect when you're starting your business. That's coming up next week, where I get to introduce everybody to Aubrey Phillips, our franchise business coach, where we're going to talk about that client cycle and that opportunity to really push your business forward and serve your population. So tune in next week for that information, and we're going to be excited to see you. Jerod, what do you think? We're signing off. How about it?
That's it. That's all we got for today. Thanks again, everybody, for listening in. Hope it was helpful. See you next week.
See ya.